Good evening, everyone. The time is now 6:31, and I'd like to formally open the meeting. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're meeting, the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Just a reminder to everyone that this is not a decision-making forum tonight and that this meeting is being live streamed. So with attendance, I've received 2 apologies, Councillor Clark and Councillor Maleka. So this evening we will be accepting deputations. There are a few on the list. Can I please ask Miss Bianca Sandry to come up and give her deputation on item 10.4.2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Councillors and Officers. My name is Bianca Sandry from Urbanista Town Planning, and we're located at 231 Bulwer Street in Perth. This evening I'm here speaking on item 10.4.2, which relates to 2 single-storey single houses at number 35 Driscoll Way in Morley. It is subject to a Section 31 reconsideration made by the State Administrative Tribunal. I'd like to firstly start with describing the streetscape of Driscoll Way. The subject property is opposite Crimea Park, which has a diverse plethora of play equipment on there, and in addition to that, there are 16 properties to the northern side. Of those 16 properties, there are 6 that do not have verge trees, and there are only 4 sites, including ours, which have 2 verge trees. By way of background, the designer lodged the application with the City of Bayswater, and this council on the 7th of, or I should say the former council on the 7th of May 2021 decided to refuse the application for the removal of the street tree. Then the owner engaged ourselves to assist them through the mediation process through the tribunal. I would like to extend thanks to the former Mayor and Councillor Dan Bull for his attendance along with the City's officers to that mediation, which was productive. As a result of the mediation process, we were required to provide additional information in relation to the matter. Principally, we engaged an arborist, a qualified one, at the request of the City. The arborist, in their view, felt that we could actually retain the tree, subject to reducing the size of the crossover, and it would result in some canopy loss as well to that tree to facilitate the driveway and the cars going through it. However, the City's officers have recommended tonight for the tree to be removed. I'm not objecting to that. That's what we wanted originally, and the arborist of the City didn't agree with our arborist, so be it. So I am here principally in support of the officers' recommendation, but there is a couple of matters that I do want to address in terms of conditions. There's actually another matter on your agenda this evening for Worsley Street. Similar situation, 2 Queensland box trees, 1 seeking removal. With that application and this, there's a stark difference in terms of conditions. For some reason, we have a condition, which is condition 4B, requesting an additional $2,500 payment made to the City for the planting of a new tree. Now, in fact, in accordance with the City's policy regarding street trees, it says that the Helliwell value, which we're willing to pay and we have no objection to, is there to cover the cost of planting new trees within proximity to the site. So an additional $2,500, I'm not entirely sure where that has come from. In addition to that, condition 7B is seeking for us to plant another 200-litre tree on our site, in addition to the City's private tree policy requirements. Again, I'm not entirely sure where that has come from. There has been some discussion in the agenda report suggesting that it is an offset for the discretion of removing the tree, but I couldn't find the similarities with the Worsley report, and that's all I can go by comparison. So what I would ask, if possible, is for this council to move the officer's recommendation with the deletion of 4B and 7B, primarily to ensure consistency is applied between the applications, but also to apply the policy as written for street tree removal. And that is all, Madam Mayor. Thank you, and councillors.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll just ask councillors first, does anyone have any conflict of interest to declare on this item? Councillor Sutherland.
Not a conflict, but an impartial interest, because I know Bianca. Yeah.
Thank you. No other conflict. Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Peterson-Pick?
Yeah, I do have a question to the officers in regards to what, so we'll do it later?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. Could I now ask Mr. Ross Underwood to come and do a deputation on item 10.4.3?
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Ross Underwood from Planning Solutions, and I'm acting on behalf of the Amore Mio Pizzeria, Francesca Diana and Aurelia Elmendorp, who aren't able to be here tonight. They're working in the pizzeria. To provide some background for those who might not be familiar with the premises, Amore Mio is it specialises in cooking pizzas and other food in the traditional way, using the highest quality of ingredients and avoiding the use of additives, preservatives and processed food. So it makes it quite different from your run-of-the-mill pizza and pasta shop. It's quite a special establishment, and I would, from experience, recommend going there. What's proposed is to move from their current premises at number 279 Guildford Road into the vacant building at 277 next door. It's the old MG workshop building. It's in quite a rundown condition, but it does allow the pizzeria to expand its operations by providing a larger kitchen area, more dining for staff, and it also allows for additional car parking to be provided on site. The existing pizza shop would be used as a cafe during daytime hours, so there's no conflict of hours, and there's a shared use of the car parking provided on the site. They'll also be living in a caretaker's dwelling which is the existing building at the back of the site, and there'll be further car parking provided for staff behind the building. This is quite a good use of the land. It's a Category 3 heritage building, so it provides for a great adaptive reuse and upgrading of that existing building. It's been recommended for approval subject to 28 conditions, and we're delighted to receive that recommendation from the officers. We have 3 minor changes which we are recommending are made to the matter. The first 2 relate to Condition 3, Part A, and the second is Condition 14. They're both relating to the existing right-of-way at the rear of the site. I did circulate by email a short note that included some photos showing what that right-of-way looks like. It essentially has been blocked off, and has been blocked off for at least 20 years through the construction of a house at number 33 Ferguson Street. There's retaining across the middle of the right-of-way with a fence on top, and the result of that is that it's not passable by car or foot at all. In addition, the right-of-way behind it has more recently in 2012 been sealed, presumably by the city, and of course there was no attempt made to reconnect the right-of-way. It appears to be permanently blocked off. What's been proposed by those 2 conditions is to allow for future right-of-way widening by requiring the existing fence, which is being replaced, to be located half a metre closer to the building. You can see from the photo provided that there is very little room between the existing building and the edge of that property boundary, so it's going to create issues if that land was to be given. But more fundamentally, the whole idea of right-of-way widening is to provide for 2-way vehicle traffic. Given there's a retaining wall and fence across the right-of-way, there's no vehicle traffic that can be using it other than the occupant of 33 Ferguson Street who uses it just to come in and out herself. So we are requesting that condition both of those conditions are removed. The third one's quite simple, and that is that there's a condition 21. It requires that the driveway is finished with brick paving or concrete. Now, the existing driveway is a bitumen seal, which if you look almost anywhere in the city is a common finish for car parking and access ways on private land. I've had a look through the council's policies. I can't find any mention of there being any requirement for brick paving or concrete only. So we'd ask that that condition is modified to allow for a bitumen seal in addition to those two other options. I'd be pleased to answer any questions, and we do look forward to receiving the council's support next week on this application. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask if councillors have any interest to declare. Councillor Eveson?
Yes, I know Ross Underwood, so it's an impartial.
Do councillors have any questions? Councillor Pearson-Pick? No?
Thank you. Look, just a quick question. Thank you for the deputation. So as you saw, the city is recommending to support the application with those conditions. Now, I understand that the next stage for you guys will be to speak to Main Roads and seek their approval, because currently, from what I understand, they are not supportive. So what will happen from your perspective at that stage? I'm just curious to know how you guys are going to overcome that challenge.
Yeah, thank you. Main roads is a common obstacle in our line of work, so it's not unusual to receive objections. This particular one, Main Roads, wants the heritage building to be knocked back to provide for wide sightlines and the direction of flow to be reversed so that people go and look out on the street before even entering the site. So it's not a great outcome. What happens from a technical perspective is that the application is dealt with through the WA Planning Commission, and the WA Planning Commission will deal with the Main Roads issue. And that's not terribly common, but it's not unusual either. And what you'll see is that the WAPC acts as a mediator in resolving those issues. We're confident that there would be a common sense approach taken by the WAPC.
Councillor Earhart, Deputy Mayor.
Hi, thank you. I just had a question in relation to the request for the deletions in relation to the laneway widening as proposed by Laneway Studies. With the plans that you've submitted, does any of the plans currently actually impinge, or does the future 0.5 metres impinge on any of the current plans, or is it regardless of that?
So the affected assets are on 277. At 279, the 0.5 metre widening is provided, so it's not an issue there. The issues are the gate, and there's also a fence which is in quite poor condition. It's on a lean, and that's built right on the boundary. It requires retaining to essentially properly constructed and bring it back into a serviceable and secure condition. So those are the main issues. There are also two car parking bays that would just need to be shifted slightly in order for that to happen. It might mean that motorcycle bays that are provided at the end of those might not be able to fit.
All right, so the only structures on there is a gate and a fence, both of which it sounds like have to be replaced anyway.
That's right. Our clients have the opinion that if the 0.5 metre setback for a new fence would just be unworkable because there's issues in the construction around the existing building. So that they would consider leaving the existing fence as it is, if the council were minded to require those new fences to be set back half a metre.
What's just a quick query? What is the material that the current fence is constructed of?
The new material?
The current material.
Oh, sorry. It appears to be a Super 6 fibrous fence.
Okay, so it's not asbestos or anything. Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Councillor Johnston?
Thank you. Sorry, you referred to some photos you sent around. Sorry, I haven't seen my emails today. Was that circulated? If I can just check, did you send that to all councillors, or is that being circulated by the city?
Yes, I did send it to all councillors. I can resend it if you like.
Okay, oh, sorry, I
Councillor
haven't
Johnston.
checked. I'm happy to go have a look and see the site myself, but thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you for your deputation. Now I'll ask Miss Sarah Ardley for her deputation for item 11.1. Councillor Earhart.
Just declaration to that. Declaration, sorry, Mayor.
Yes.
Yep, so I just want to make a declaration for this item 11.1, proximity interest. The PTA title on which the Caledonian Crossing is located is adjacent to my property. It's one title in that section, so I'll have to leave the room.
Thank you, councillor. Is Miss Ardley here? Okay, we'll move on to the next deputation. And Miss Shannon Lee, in relation to item 11.1.
Hello, okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. And everyone, hello again. I know most of you, and you know me. I'm just here to speak on item 11.1, so on Councillor Peterson-Pick's motion to have the city write a letter regarding the Caledonian Avenue closing and the blocking of that access to pedestrians and cyclists that is a result of that. The decision was made for this, which was recommended to the minister with no consideration of the demographics of Maylands, no thought about people walking or riding either. So in Maylands, 11% of the households do not own a vehicle, according to the ABS of 2016. So for WA, it's WA-wide, that's 5%. So we're over double the number for our residents. And in addition to that, there are quite a significant number that are only one-car households, meaning probably someone isn't driving somewhere at some point, with 48% of those households only having one vehicle compared to 32% in WA. So no consultation occurred with the community before about a month ago, and I think with the councillors, about 6 weeks ago or 8 weeks ago, and I only know of them speaking with the staff of Bayswater. So this crossing is actually part of the long-term cycling network, which I know you would all be aware of because you approved it for Bayswater. And you would also be aware that because a change was made in Bayswater on that plan, that you can't make a change to that plan without a suitable alternative being provided. And in this instance, there is no suitable alternative being provided or that exists. The alternatives that they are suggesting we use are the existing under Maylands train station or Meltham station. So these are not designed as throughfares. These are designed to get you to the platform if you have a pram or have a mobility need that you can't take the stairs. The numbers that Main Roads gave for the number of people using the crossing is about 400 a day. Now, they said they didn't know when those numbers were taken, but from my memory from a previous presentation from them was that they only just did that in September, which, if you remember, was quite a rainy month. So if you think about the Maylands train station, which has ramps, you can use them, but imagine instead of it being a person using it every 5 or 10 minutes, it's 400 people in a day trying to pass each other. So you also may have seen in on Sunday that there was a recent article about the new e-ridable laws. And in that article was also quite a lot of information about the increase in cycling and that safety is the biggest barrier to riding. So people will use the easiest, most convenient and quickest way to get around. It's the path of least resistance. We are all that way. So in order to reduce congestion in our area, we need safe infrastructure that will let people make that easy decision to walk or ride for some of their trips. And if it's too difficult or unsafe, people will just get in their cars and increase congestion.
Excuse me, Miss Lee, you've reached your 5 minutes. Would you be able to conclude? Another 5 minutes. Anyone seconding? Councillor Palmer?
Thanks.
All
I don't usually
all
get
those in
talks.
favour? Okay, unanimous.
Thank you. I'm usually very quick. So we want more people living in Maylands. That's a good thing. You know, we need people for your businesses to thrive and survive. And as much as I like to go out to eat every night, I'm not going to. So I want more people there so I have that choice when I want it. But we can't have all these people driving. And so we need to make it as accessible as possible for people not to drive. And when I talk to people that are younger, they don't have licenses, they don't drive, they have no interest in that. They're using all of these ways to get around, and getting around by their bikes and walking. So just a couple more points. I just wanted to say a few of you were at the Ratepayers Association meeting where this presentation was given, and the sentiment in the room was very loud and strong that people were opposing the blocking of access at this location and how much it's needed. So I probably should have started with this. So I am here in my capacity as the campaign starter for Don't Divide Maylands, and we have our Facebook group is almost 300 people strong. And that's with our limited time of trying to get all this information out. And so that's almost 300 people that are very concerned about this closing. And I just didn't want to ignore the car side of it. You all know I'm an advocate for walking and riding, but in addition, it's very concerning that they're putting off the upgrades to the road network. With the earliest would be 2 years to 5 years, claiming not enough resources, as in human resources, and we have to move things, and we have to get Western Power to do things, move the infrastructure. But if they've known this is coming for years, and that regardless the closure was happening for cars, it's not acceptable that areas such as the Hotham Street Bridge is going to have no measures there for years, which is going to cause a lot of conflict in our area when there's no way to get around. So I also support that aspect of the motion and the letter, that they need to look at some temporary measures that we would seek, that you would ask them to look for temporary measures to also allow for vehicle movements in the area until those permanent movements happen, or permanent infrastructure happens. And that's all from me.
Thank you for your deputation.
Thank you.
I'll just ask councillors, firstly, does anyone have an interest to? No. Any questions from councillors? Councillor Palmer?
Thank you very, very much for your very in-depth deputation. Have you also sort of liaised strongly in your group with Metronet? Because that is where you're...
They have not liaised with us.
Yeah, they-
So we've spoken with Main Roads. It's more, the concern is that it's moved into the implementation without this time of consultation. So it's moved on to Main Roads to implement it, and they've sort of got stuck trying to do that. They were at the Main Roads, at the Ratepayers Association meeting, and they did speak on a few things. So, but no, not any direct response. I mean, I go through the Department of Transport, so they've decided that they don't need to speak with us, I guess.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? No? Thank you, Ms Lee.
All right, thank you.
We do have a few other deputations in relation to the same item, so I'll just ask people if some of your comments have already been said in the previous deputation, if you could just bring up new comments. So the next person here is Mr. Oliver Savage on item 11.1.
Yeah, today Eli will be speaking instead of me.
Okay.
Mainly. We're all speaking.
You can all speak.
Hello, I am Eli. I am Oliver.
And I'm Isaac. And we think that the crossing many people use every day should not close.
Some reasons are that people like us, who use this crossing almost daily to go to school, work, etc., have been using this for a long time. For me, I have to continue using this crossing for 5 more years. For them, it'll be 7. This is probably the safest way for us to get to school. It is also the shortest. And that we strongly think that this should keep open for the public.
We don't want it for just us. We also want it for the rest of the community. The people who use it now, it's not only going to be them. People in the future will also need it. And these are the reasons why we think that it must not close.
That's all. Does anyone have any questions for us?
Thank you very much for your deputation. I'll just ask councillors. Councillors, would anyone like to ask a question? No. Thank you very much to all 3 of you. Thanks. So our next speaker is Mr. Peter Tomsett. You'll be speaking in support of the motion, notice of motion.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor and councillors. Yes, so I have cut down this quite a bit, so that's okay. So I'm just speaking as a resident who lives on Caledonian Avenue. I do feel, as do many residents, that closing the crossing, which is a key point, will sever the community, reduce amenity, discourage active transport and encourage more driving in the area. So some of these things have been talked about before, but I do want to stress the point that when you inconvenience walking and cycling, it also means more driving. It depends on the urban context, but we all know in a place like Perth, the threshold of inconvenience is quite small. So if my walk to the shops becomes, my 5-minute walk becomes 10 or 15 minutes, I'm going to drive. And lots of other people will as well. It's not going to just be me. So it doesn't take much to tip the balance. So when things like this happen, you can say hello to more congestion, more rat running, more parking chaos, more pollution, more dangerous streets, and of course, more complaints coming your way to council about all these issues. But also, increasing the distance between pedestrian access points, which closing this thing without an alternative will do, doesn't it's completely at odds with the high and increasing population density, which we know is going to happen in the years specifically along that corridor. So it doesn't seem to make sense with the plans for the area. So if we provided something like an underpass, it would be beneficial not just for the current population, but for the growing and future population of the area. It's been mentioned before, obviously there's an equity issue. We know a lot of people don't actually drive in the area. There's a lot of people that use mobility devices as well. So these people will be unfairly affected, including children. So if you count, the whole population of WA, it's a third of people that don't drive, and that includes the children and the seniors and all that. The other big picture is also, of course, environmental. Bayswater Council has a goal for net zero emissions in its operation, and we've seen governments at all levels making similar commitments. But also non-motorised transport is an essential part of the mix to achieve emissions reductions at scale. So in light of that, we should be making it easier to get about on foot or bike wherever possible to be consistent with such environmental aspirations. Lastly, I just think a well-designed, wide and well-lit underpass will keep the Maylands community connected, enable more walking and cycling, support local business and establish Maylands as a great place for all, both now and into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your deputation. Just ask if councillors have any questions. No, thank you.
Okay, cheers.
Councillors, you'll note that we've also received 3 written deputations from Robert Mazzilli, Marnie Yasmajan and Kate Bowker. Those 3 deputations will be published on the City of Bayswater website. As well, we've also received 8 emails supporting the notice of motion and 2 objecting to the notice of motion, and they've been received. So I'll move to the next deputation. I'll just ask Councillor Earhart to come back in. Well, thank you. I'll ask Mr. Mark Thomas to come up to do a deputation in relation to item 14.1.2 to speak against the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Firstly, I'd like to explain to the councillors about how the Bayswater Sports Club operates. So the club rooms itself are managed by the Bayswater Sports Club. The sports club is a representation of both the football club and the cricket club. On that committee are both treasurers, both presidents of the football and cricket club, as well as myself and another representative from the cricket. So it's an even split between the two. We also manage we manage the building as well as any operations that are done in regards to the liquor licence, and we have an approved manager for that. In regards to the motion that we've been put forward, because of the confidentiality of it, we're actually not sure why this has been brought forward from council, and a request has been made both by myself and the presidents from the other sporting club about what the nature of this is. Look, we have received correspondence several months ago, but we understood that that had been dealt with, and we're very surprised that we're actually here tonight. There's been no phone calls from the council in regards to this, and I would have thought that if there was some intention, well, if they didn't think that the matter had been dealt with, I would have thought that a phone call to either club to try and, I suppose, give us an understanding of what was going on before coming here tonight. So following myself, John Boyd from the cricket club is also going to be speaking, and it's been approved as well. So would you like to come forward?
Yep. Sorry, I'll just, have you concluded your deputation?
Yes, I have, yes.
Yep, I'll just ask councillors firstly, does anyone have any interest to disclose on this item? Councillor Eveson?
Yes, I know Mark as well, so impartial.
Do councillors have any questions to the deputy? No. Thank you for your deputation. I'll now ask Mr. John Boyd to come up and speak on the same item.
Evening to the Mayor, councillors, thanks for having us tonight. Like Mark said, I've read the correspondence from the council, and as it's confidential, I don't have a great understanding of exactly where this is heading and what the outcome's going to be. I'm a long time member of the Bayswater Postals Cricket Club, previously the Bayswater Cricket Club. I was there when this pavilion was built around 1982. I've seen a lot of people come, a lot go, and a lot of changes. This is disappointing that we're at this, we're in this position as we are at the moment. From the cricket club's point of view, we've had a fairly strong relationship with the council. Very little problems with antisocial behaviour or financial problems or anything. We've always paid our way and done the right thing. Our culture at the club's really strong. It's good. We have a lot of young people playing cricket at the moment, which is great for community sport. We've recently gone back into first grade, and we've got 5 18-year-olds who've come up through the district playing juniors for Morley Bayswater, which is, it's a very good thing for their club, and it's good for us that young kids continue on into senior sport. If the lease was to be terminated, it'd be dire for us. It'd probably be, the end of cricket at Hillcrest. If you look around recent years of senior community sport in the area, there's a lot of clubs on their knees or have gone, they're not here anymore. And at the moment, I'm proud to say we're going really well. So, like I said, I believe that the cricket club's always done the right thing, or to the best of their ability, and if there's been any misdemeanours, they've been minor. And I'd like you all to consider that for us in the future to go forward, we need the lease, we need the pavilion, because the social part of sport is probably as important as the playing itself. And like I said, we have a good culture. We don't have any real problems, and going forward, it's imperative that we keep the lease. So I hope you consider that in anything you find. Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll ask if anyone has questions. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. I'm at a bit of a loss here, and I see guidance through the chair to the CEO because there's some questions I would like to ask these club presidents in relation to some of the matters raised in that confidential report, to ask them to clarify. But how can I do that?
I'll just go to the CEO.
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair. As the report's confidential at this point in time, you can't disclose that information unless council wants to make it public, in which case we'd have to do it through the meeting next week. We don't have a position to be able to do it tonight.
Okay, so how am I supposed to fact check any of this?
Through the chair. I guess any questions that you wish to pose when council, we can take those on notice when we can go behind closed doors to consider the confidential report. We can take the questions and then we can work out how we can respond to them.
Councillor Pearson-Pick.
Thank you, Mr. Boyd, for your deputation. Look, I also not sure why it's confidential, so I can't actually speak. We are forbidden apparently to speak about the item. But I want to ask you, from your point of view, because you did come to, because you are concerned that something is happening here. So how's the club going? Are there any issues with the club? Any problems? Do you have a clue why this is on the table? I can't actually ask you direct questions apparently, but
I saw the notice regarding. Am I allowed to say what I saw the notice regarding?
You're allowed to do everything. You're allowed to speak. Yes.
Yeah. Well, I saw the notice regarding an incident in, I think it was August, with people on the roof at the cricket at the club, and the ranger was called. I've seen that notice. That was in August, I think. Is that correct? Yeah, I've seen that. That was in the email we received about this tonight. So I have seen that, but what happened after that and to now, I don't know. Because I'm president of the cricket club. That was in the football season, so I'm here to represent the cricket club, but I'm aware of that there was an issue with that, yes.
So what was the notice about? Can you elaborate on that one? What was the issue around the notice that you received from the city?
Regarding that issue?
Yeah, that you just raised.
That's the only one I've seen, and that was regarding that there was members on the roof and the ranger was called, and there was allegedly what would you call it? There was words between the ranger and the people on the roof, and Mark mentioned that in his speech, and we thought that had been dealt with and it was finished with. But as the matter's confidential, there was something in the email regarding 2013, I think, but it's all confidential, and I'm not 100% sure what it is.
So those members of the club that you're referring to with that incident, they are members of the football club?
That's correct.
Okay, so I will refer the questions to the next deputy. Because that's not less relevant to your club, I understand, that incident. It's more relevant to the football club.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Councillor Palmer.
Thank you. How many members do you have at your cricket club, please?
Probably 50 to 60
Okay.
playing members and numerous life members, of course.
Yeah. Social members?
We have people who come and go, probably 20 or 30.
Okay.
You know, it's hard. There'd be upwards of 50 who play. So,
Lovely. Excellent.
and social members, yeah, probably another 20, 30 who come to our functions and things like that.
Thank you. Also, do you take part in the wicket keeping at the grounds at all?
We play on a hard deck.
Okay.
It's
So there's
managed
no
by the city.
maintenance, no maintenance that you do?
No, we don't do any maintenance. No, we mark the lines on it, that's all.
Yes.
No, while we're talking about this, you know, we're very happy. Hillcrest, for the level of cricket we play, it's a fantastic venue. Bayswater keep their parks and gardens better than most, so no, we've got no issue with that. All the opposition clubs who come and play us say, you know, you've got the best facilities going around. We're more than pleased with that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yes, sorry, Mr. Boyd, I have another follow-up question. So from your point of view as the president of the Posters Cricket Club, are there any issues at that club that you're aware of when it comes to the relationship with the city? Are there any issues that we should be aware of that you want to speak and elaborate now?
Oh, no, not at all.
No, it's all working well.
We have the cricket club's had a strong relationship with the council over many years, and no. Well, while I'm speaking about the club in general, the sports club,
yep.
I think the last 6 or 7 years have been better than the previous 15. When Mark came on as president of the football club, the place changed for the better. And yeah, like I haven't been on the sports club recently, but I've been the president of the cricket club for 19 years. And in that time, I've probably done 4 or 5 years as president of the sports club. So I'm aware of the issues and how it runs and how we are supposed to communicate with the council and things like that. So there's no issue there. But like I said, the last half a dozen years have probably been really good. So I'm happy with that. And the council maintain the building, and you know, it's there's always want lists, but everyone's got them, and no, we don't have any issue with the council.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No, thank you for your deputation,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Boyd. I'll ask Ms. Danielle Santoro to come up on the same item, speaking against the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, councillors. Thank you all for allowing me this opportunity to address you all. My name is Danielle Santoro and I'm president of the Bayswater Football Club, first ever female president. To begin with, I'm actually not sure what you would like me to say in this position. It was only late afternoon that I was informed that there was an agenda item on your next council meeting to terminate the lease at our club rooms at Upper Hill Crest Reserve. That afternoon and in the past day or two, I've tried to find out, including trying to contact the CEO to find out the reason why this has happened, but it's obviously been bounded by confidentiality. So, as I said, I'm not actually sure why the lease is being terminated. So if you wanted to know how much our club means to us, you would need to ask many of our players, members, supporters from the past 77 years. That's correct. We're established by war veterans returning from the Second World War in 1945. We're probably your oldest community group in your city. This season we fielded 4 teams, including women's and Colts, with over 180 registered players. Add this to our volunteers, coaching and support staff and supporters, which would make a few hundred more. If our lease is to be terminated, where are these members of your city to go? I've been involved in the club for many years now at a committee level. My 3 children have grown up around this club. We are constantly getting compliments from our opposing teams about what a wonderfully family-orientated club we are. We have respected and long-standing sponsors who pride themselves as being associated with our club, including the Civic Hotel, who has just joined us this season. Paul Ross, who is a very renowned real estate agent, has been our major sponsor for about 7 years now. I personally know that for the past 10 years or so, we have constantly tried to make positive relationships with the city, and it just never seems to be reciprocated. And this just proves how undervalued our club actually is to the city. So why am I addressing the council if I don't know why our lease is being terminated? It's very clear that our club is going to be severely disadvantaged if our lease is terminated, even getting to the point where perhaps folding if we can't be allocated another ground. That's 77 years of community spirit and sportsmanship gone from your city. Our club has not been afforded natural justice or procedural fairness. This means that the city is making an unlawful decision which will be at the detriment of my club. There must be an instance of disclosure. Council will be breaching administrative law if it goes ahead. There's been no engagement with our club at a board or at an administrative level. There has been no input or advice given to us. We need to know the essence of this decision, not material matters. We have nothing to respond to. We must be given some advice on the matter as procedural process for public law. We want to be engaged in this matter. I ask you to disclose your reasons for wanting to terminate our lease. You have an obligation to give us this advanced advice on your intentions. Our club means so much to so many of our members of your community. They deserve to be treated fairly. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your deputation. I'll ask if councillors have any questions. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Centaur, for the deputation. I'm sorry I can't ask you specific questions. You understand we are bound at the moment, but we will discuss this item. Are you aware of any issues?
Look, we had an issue, as was discussed by some of our younger players. It's the first year that we've actually had a Colts team since the early 90s. And we had a couple of young players who did the wrong thing. As we said, the Ranger was called. The boys admit to probably saying stuff that they shouldn't have. But from what I believe from other witnesses there, they had their dressing down from the Ranger. They apologised and moved back into the club rooms. Apart from that, we've had one other issue with a member who is now actually not part of our club. We removed him from our club. That was dealt with as well. There was a broken glass panel in the door, and we had that fixed. So apart from that, if you look at over the past 8 or 9 years, there's been very, very little antisocial behaviour at our club, and we took full responsibility for the 2 incidences in those years.
So can we elaborate on those incidents that you just mentioned? It would be useful. So that incident with the young, I don't know if teenagers, so that was a one-off incident?
Yes.
A one-off?
Yes.
And that was resolved from the club's
we
perspective?
assumed. We were notified from the city, and we then spoke to another member of our club who was there. And he he's a primary school teacher. He described what he witnessed, and he couldn't believe that the council had sent us the letter out because he didn't think anything of it. He thought it was resolved on the day. Our boys then knew they did the wrong thing. We can bring them here for a public apology if that's what the city wants. They dealt with it, they took responsibility, and we moved on. But when you consider the amount of people that we have down at our club, and that being such a small incident, and they're not denying it, we're not denying it, we've taken responsibility and dealt with them, I really think it's quite trivial in the scheme of our club's history. And that's what we're struggling with, because are we assuming that that's the reason? Because we have no idea because of this confidentiality. So we actually don't know what it is, whether it's that incident or not.
So the other incident that you mentioned with
Yes.
the other guy with the
Yes.
broken glass.
Yes.
So when that happened?
So that happened in our club rooms. We had actually stopped serving him alcohol and had asked him to leave. And on his way out, he's kicked the door or the panel and was actually left. And he was then actually, his membership was terminated at our club because of that. And he has not been back since that day. The club paid for the damages and had that fixed.
And when did that occur?
When that was last season, maybe? 2 seasons ago. But he was sent a termination letter of his membership and was not welcome back into our club rooms and has not set foot in since. So we deal with antisocial behaviour, but we don't have antisocial behaviour. You know.
Ms. Santora, so when you started your deputation, you mentioned that you feel that the club is undervalued.
Yes, absolutely.
So can you elaborate on that?
We have, over many years and my time there, tried to make positive relationships with council. We look at clubs around that are being refurbished and being an example. So we were one of the first clubs to have a women's football team. So this was about 3 years ago. We couldn't even get shower curtains in our change rooms for the girls. And you could, because our change rooms aren't set up for girls, we understand that. But our women said, well, we'd just like a plastic shower curtain from Kmart for $2 put up, because where you stand at our change rooms, you can see all the way in there. Now, for men, they obviously don't have a problem with that. It's been like that forever. They've never brought that up with us. The girls weren't comfortable with that. We have gone to and fro with the council trying to get shower curtains up, and they're just not coming to the party. Our toilets in our club rooms, they block, they do not flush. They are embarrassing to have opposing teams come in and use, and we cannot get them fixed. Yet you look at clubs around our area who are getting funding for refurbishment. They are getting these beautiful club rooms, and we have had nothing done since our rooms were built in the 80s. So we struggle with anything. We just seem to hit a brick wall, and it seems very, very unfair. As I said, 77 years this club has been around, and we feel that we aren't valued in the city, to be honest.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Councillor Eveson?
Yeah, look, thank you very much for your deputation. So you mentioned what seems to be an ongoing issue with maintenance with the facilities.
Yes.
And that's been brought up time and time again.
Yes.
And you've not seen any, I guess, movement in budget.
So it's quite interesting, and this is where I struggle to see why you're terminating our lease. We have spent many time trying to get into the budget, and we get lots of different reasons as to why not. We were allocated in this budget $200,000 for demountable change rooms for the girls, which we were just ecstatic with. And I had spoken to a couple of people in your building area to say, when is that going to happen? Because we'd love it to go in an off season so that it's ready for the girls next season. And I have been told that it is happening, but just haven't got a date yet. So if this money has been allocated to spend on our women's change rooms, before we get a refurbishment, then why is our lease being terminated? It's just blown our mind. Like someone told us it was on the agenda late Friday afternoon, that it's going to be voted on, and we don't know why. So how can we defend that? If there is an issue, speak to us. Let us know. We'll deal with. Like, should there not have been a warning? Or it just is ridiculous. We have nothing to go by. And as we said, are we going from the incident of the boys on the roof? Who knows? Because we have no idea.
Hopefully we'll address it next week.
Thank you. I
Thanks.
hope so.
Thanks.
Councillor Palmer.
So just a quick question.
Sure.
And thank you, Mrs. Santora. How many members in the football club?
Okay, so we have 100 and just over 180 registered players.
Yep.
That doesn't include we then have volunteers, we have our coaching and support staff, and then our supporters who come down. We've only just started really getting a community feel where people from the community are coming down to watch our games, and because often now we have 4 games in a row. We have our Colts, our women's and our reserves and our league play on the same day at certain times. So we're getting community come down, just walking from across the road. They might come in and have a beer with us. So we have just over 180, I believe, registered players.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your deputation.
Thank you.
Okay, so councillors, that's the last of the deputations. I'll now start with items that were subject of a deputation. The first one being item 10.4.2. Are there any questions to officers? Councillor Ball.
Thank you. 10.4.2. So my question is, in response to the deputation highlighting the differences around the conditions between 10.4.2 and 10.4.1, I was wondering if the relevant officer could explain why those differences exist.
Yep, I'll go to the Manager of Planning.
Thanks.
Through you, Madam Chair, the difference with the Wolseley Road matter is because no other viable alternative exists, whereas the SAT determination relates to a matter where there is an alternative option. So the city is imposing a requirement for a replacement tree because there is an alternative option, whereas the difference with the other one is that there isn't a viable option.
Okay, thank you. That's it.
Are there any other questions? I have some questions on that one. So just following on from that, I believe there were 2 conditions that were mentioned in the deputation that differ from the Wolseley Road application. That being not only the additional tree being planted, but also a sum of $2,000 and something in addition to the Heliwell figure. So are you saying that that rationale is the same for both of those conditions?
So that's the reason why they differ. One is being imposed a replacement tree cost of $2,500 in addition to the Heliwell, because an alternative option exists to retain the tree.
And can you please advise which policy that's stated in?
That's in the, it's not specifically stated. The trees on private land and street verges policy makes reference to the Heliwell assessment. A replacement street tree is essentially to replace the asset that is being lost.
So I guess I'm trying to understand, where did the city come up with a figure of $2,500, which will, the condition specifically states, the amount of $2,500, which will cover the cost of a replacement mature tree and its maintenance for a period of 3 years. A replacement tree will be planted and maintained by the city within the verge area in close proximity to the subject site, when my understanding, when you talk about the Heliwell value, is that that's what that payment is for?
No, they're 2 separate matters. So the Heliwell assessment is to replace the canopy loss and to provide replacement trees to make up that canopy loss. And then there's also the replacement tree for the actual tree loss. That figure of $2,500 is an amount which the city's tree services has ascertained will cost to replace the tree, and it's a mature tree. There's watering costs, mulching. Yep.
So, sorry, I know I asked this question, but I don't think I got the answer. That replacement tree, which is separate to the Heliwell, which policy has the city endorsed that? In which policy?
It's not specifically referenced.
So it doesn't exist?
I'd need to probably defer to the Works and Infrastructure Director in terms of responding to that.
Yep.
Yeah, if I may, the Hallowell assessment, that's basically relates to the compensation for the loss of the tree. So basically that's just compensation. So it's not necessarily about replacing the tree. The $2,500 is for the replacement of the tree. So that includes the actual purchase of the tree. It is for the planting of it. It is for the watering for the 3 years. So the tree gets established. That's basically derived from contract prices that the city uses for similar plantings.
Thank you, but I guess I'm trying to understand, where has council given the city that direction, under what policy, to impose that condition?
In terms of the Hallywell, that is part of the local planning policy. But in terms of the actual replacement tree, that's just a cost that's been derived in terms of what the tree would cost to replace. So it's not necessarily through a specific mention through a policy as being $2,500.
If I may, through the chair, we'll take that on notice and we'll bring it back as to how it's been derived in relation to the policies and provide some clarity back before the meeting next week.
Thank you. Councillor Peterson-Pick?
Yes. Just a follow-up question, if I can. So I'm actually not clear about the difference still. So it looks to me like we are penalizing them twice, which is fine if this is what we're trying to do. But I try to understand, because we do not charge other ratepayers for trees that the city plant, and we do not charge other ratepayers for the maintenance. So we already charging them their, Hallowell payment because of that loss. So why will we charge them the additional one when we don't do this for other ratepayers that we don't even force them to actually have trees? You see, so they had a tree on their veg, which they are going to remove, and they are going to pay for that under 4A. But we are saying we are forcing you now to plant another one and pay for that. Well, we don't do this for all the other ratepayers. So, and they've already been penalized for the removal, which I think, by the way, is low. But that's a separate issue. But so why are we penalizing them twice in that sense when all the other ratepayers, we do not ask them to pay for trees and the maintenance?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This relates to development of a site. So there's a local planning policy which talks about where the city can assess a street tree removal. In terms of the Hallywell assessment, that is outlined in the policy. A replacement tree, in terms of replacing that city asset, we will provide that detailed response via on notice as the CEO was requested.
Okay, thank you.
I just have one more question, and it's just in relation to condition 6. I believe this is a standard condition. Can you just confirm that for me?
It's a recently developed standard condition where a street tree, where it's adjacent to a development site, we will impose it to I suppose, put developers on notice that in the event that a street tree does suffer any damage, whether it be inadvertent or vandalism, then the city will take action.
And may I ask, you just said it's recently developed condition, which policy does this come from?
Again, it's something which we'll probably need to take on notice to respond to that
Thank you.
aspect. Thanks.
Are there any other questions? No? I'll move to the next item subject to a deputation, which was 10.4.3, proposed change of use to restaurant and ancillary office and caretaker's dwelling. Councillor Ball.
I was just wondering again if the city can respond to the requested amendments from the applicant's deputation this evening.
We'll go to the Manager of
Thanks.
Planning.
Through you, Madam Chair. The applicant raises the appropriateness of condition 3A, where they're asking for the widening not to be applied. So as outlined in some advice which we circulated to councillors this afternoon, we've outlined that it's identified in the city's right-of-way study. And so where it's identified, then we do ask that, that the widening is provided, and that in instances where we can't take the land straight away, that the land be set aside and not developed within until such time as the city actually widens that right-of-way. The applicant has raised the fact that that there's differing levels between this particular section of the right-of-way and the other portion which goes down to which goes north. So that may be the case now, but as we know, with any sort of engineering works, you can work with levels, or you can change the levels such that you can get vehicular carriageway through there. So we would state that condition remain. Condition 14, he's asked that condition also be removed. Now, in this instance, there is a portion of the roof of that carport which is actually within the right-of-way widening area. In the event that that condition was maintained to require the 0.5 metre widening, at a future date when that widening was required, we would then ask the applicant to remove that portion of the roof and any fencing which was within it. Condition 21, the applicant has referred to requesting a bitumen surface, and we don't have any objection to that. So we can update that condition for the agenda next week.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, through the chair, I've just got a question in relation to, I think it was 33 Ferguson Street there, the one that's got the fence closing off the right-of-way. Let me just check that. Yeah, 33 Ferguson. Do we know if that laneway is all still laneway, or if any adverse possession claims been made?
Through the chair, no, we're not aware of any.
Okay, so could that be investigated? Because if they have been claimed, then that could never be able to be a laneway in the future. Are we sure that it's still ownership is all still public? I suppose I need to clarify. Have we checked that out?
The city is not aware of any adverse possession claims, but we can check that out and make you aware for next week.
Yeah, I think we just need to make sure that because if we want to claim it for a right-of-way, then it'd be redundant if we can't actually do that. So, because I know my house is built on what used to be a right-of-way before I claimed it. So,
Councillor Peterson-Pick.
I have follow-up questions about the right-of-way issue, the 0.5. So I'm a bit confused on this one. So we are trying to get the 0.5 at the back of those properties, the landway. And we are hoping that in the future, if the other lots on the other side will be developed, they will also give 1.5. And the reason for that is that we are hoping that that landway in the future will have the capacity to become a two-way landway to save which properties? Because the property, obviously the front properties that we are talking about, the subject of the application, are not interested in the two-way. And the one at the back, there is only one property, right, which we're talking about. So that is to save that property, just so I understand. So all this thing that we're trying to achieve in the future is to help the property owner at the back that they might want the two-way landway.
Through you, Madam Chair, the right-of-way study is obviously a long-term document, which is not only just about what exists there now. It may be a point in time that property to the rear is redeveloped and they give up their portion of the of land for the right-of-way widening. The city has consistently applied the widening requirement on the adjoining property, as well as that property on the corner. So it's consistently applied so that at a point in time, the right-of-way is widened to allow two-way access. In some instances, you won't get the full extent of the right-of-way at the same width all the way through, but at least you'll get portions where you can have two cars allowed to pass one another.
So are we applying this rule, the 0.5 on each side, on all right-of-ways?
Where they're identified in the right-of-way study.
So that was identified, this specific right-of-way. So I'm sorry, I'm just trying to understand the point. So I don't know if you recall the rationale, and I'm happy to take it to notice, but the rationale for this right-of-way, having it expanded, is to assist which properties? All of them? Because I'm trying to understand, because the front ones, obviously, they say they don't need it. They're happy, they prefer not to have this and keep the current situation. And the front one, obviously, I'm assuming that they live straight to Ferguson Street. I need to go there and have a look. And we're talking about the one at the back. So I'm trying to say if we are trying to save that property in the far future, because it can't develop much. It's a small lot.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the intention is that the right-of-way is a through thoroughfare through to that other section which goes north down to north towards Maylands. So it doesn't at the moment, and as I said, it is a long-term document. So the intention is that all rights of way are widened to allow not only redevelopment options but two-way access where it can be provided. In this instance, we haven't put out a request to close it, so we're not really asking whether people want it to be widened or not. The study is a requirement that we take the widening where we can.
So that is a very small right-of-way, right? It's not connected. I'm looking at it. It's not connected to anything, right? It ends there.
It does connect, but it's blocked off at the moment.
Upstairs. Okay. Sorry, it's not map. It wasn't clear. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I just suppose just in a follow-on onto that right-of-way there, that home that is on the end of the right-of-way there, where the colour-bond fencing is with the retaining below it, that looks like a relatively new build. So I'm just wondering with that one there, because looking on this where that laneway actually doglegs around that property, I would have assumed that a setback would have been required on all parameters when you say it's been consistently applied. Can we just, and I'm happy to take this on notice, can we just get some clarification around if that setback was consistently applied around this building's construction on the perimeters there, because it's looking to me like there's actually a garage built on that setback from the other side where it doglegs there. So I'd just like some clarity around that, because if it hasn't been consistently applied, we're never going to get that back through in that section there.
You, Madam Mayor, just so I can clarify, are you referring to the map on page 219? This property? Yeah, okay. Yeah, for this section here. See how it's got that. Yeah, sure. Yep, no problem. We'll provide that on notice.
Councillor Peterson-Pick.
I have a follow-up question on the same issue. So, when it comes to the study for, with regards to the right-of-ways, does that apply to any opportunity of application such as this one? Because it's not a major development. It's a, you know, they're doing some extensions there, but it's not a major development. You know, they're not building high. So why are we requiring that at this stage? Why are we not waiting for them when in the future, if they will develop, and I can understand the need for it if they are going high, why do we need to do it now? Why we don't have the discretion to postpone it to when the right development comes, then we can require it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it's all about opportunity, I suppose. This is an application where they're proposing access arrangements. We want to ensure that that right-of-way is going to be able to function better when it's widened in the event that main roads take off their access from Guildford Road. So it is an alternative access for this site. And it may be that this site doesn't redevelop for quite some time. So it's an opportunity for us to get that widening in place.
And if we are going to get that 0.5, and it's not going to be extended on the other side, is that going to be sufficient for 2 cars?
Through you, Madam Mayor, well, we don't know that the other side won't give up their 0.5. It's all about opportunities.
If they will develop.
Yeah.
But if they're not going to develop in the next 20 years, and we only have one side, is this going to be sufficient to serve the purpose of having two cars both ways?
Through you, Madam Mayor, it all helps. So essentially, we don't know when property is going to be developed. The right-of-way study is premised on the fact that it's a long-term requirement to get widening of these rights-of-ways. It could be 100 years, but it's been put in place, I think, since 2007, and it's a gradual thing. It will improve accessibility in time.
Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, sorry, just seeking clarification. My understanding, and admittedly it has been a while since I've last read this document for the right-of-way widening program, which is a decades-long program. With that one, that my understanding was that these trigger every time a development application is put in, so it's not for a full site redevelopment or subdivision, it's any development application can trigger. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Any other questions? Thank you. The next item subject to a deputation is 11.1 level crossing closure Caledonian Avenue Maylands. Do any councillors have questions on this item? No questions. We'll move to the next item, which is 14.1.2, proposed termination of the lease, Bayswater Sports Club, Upper Hillcrest Reserve. Do any councillors have questions? Just be mindful that it is a confidential item. Councillor Bull?
We'll need to go behind closed doors. So
For these questions?
Yes, please.
Could I have a mover to go behind closed doors? Councillor Bull, seconder. Okay.
Through the chair, it may be appropriate just to deal with this one at the end. That way we can deal with any other questions and then the public can leave and then we can finish the matter off.
Okay, so we'll move then to...
Excuse me, maybe might want to just inform the gallery what we've decided to do, otherwise folks might be staying around for an item that they won't be able to.
So just for the benefit of those in the gallery that are interested in that item, item 14.1.2, because it is a confidential matter. If councillors have a question that they would like to ask, we'll have to go behind closed doors, which means that members of the gallery can't stay in the room when those questions are being asked. So we're going to wait for the end of the meeting to ask those questions on that item, and now we're going to go through the rest of the agenda. You,
One question. Do we get notification or anything? Is it just going to go to council meeting next on Tuesday?
so the process for this is next Tuesday is the ordinary council meeting, and at that meeting is when a decision on the item will be made by councillors. It's closed doors.
So at this point, we won't find out what the issue is.
No.
How can we deal with that as a club?
I'm happy to have a conversation with you tomorrow about it. Yeah.
That's really disappointing. Like, we just have no idea where to go.
I'm happy to speak with you and any of the other club presidents tomorrow.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move to item 10.2.4. I believe Councillor Johnson has a question on the donations granted under delegated authority.
Thank you, Chair. I might just point out, sorry, at the moment, also have another question that's related to 10.4.6. So I don't know if you want to add that to your list, and it might have to go into confidential, I'm not sure.
10.4.6?
Yes, please.
Okay, we'll get to that.
Yeah, just flagging that. Okay, so this question on donations relates to actually one of the donations that was already granted. So just want some clarification on our processes, if that's okay. So it says that we donated some money to Cahoots, but I understand that they have a venue in our, that they also use one of the venues. So I just want some clarification on our donations policies about, if you're getting a good rate on your rent, if you also qualify for donations, because I'm just not sure if that's the case or not. So some clarification around that, if I could, please.
Sure, I'll go to the Director, Community, whichever director wants to take it.
Sorry, guys.
Through the chair, I'll take that one on notice and bring back that policy to you next week regarding the venue hire versus the policy or the donations policy.
Thank you. I wasn't sure how that overlaid, so thank you for that.
I should have asked, does anyone have any interest to disclose on this item? No? Any other questions on this item? Okay, the next one is 10.2.5, City of Bayswater Annual Report 2020-2021. Councillor Johnson first.
Sorry, I think my question was just, I think the format looks really different to previously, and I'm just wondering, how that came about.
Go to the director. Or
Through the chair, so the annual report's been put together this year by a number of people throughout the organisation, so it's had input across the corporate comms group, the corporate governance group, and obviously through finance and across the whole organisation. The approach has been to ensure that we're addressing all the requirements of our various strategic community plan and corporate business reporting documents, as well as addressing any matters that have come up throughout the year. So the attempt is that it's a holistic approach, and it's taking into account any improvements we've made throughout the year in our reporting.
Thank you.
Councillor Ostaszewski.
Thank you. My question's regarding the achievements this year on page 88 of the agenda. Under the achievements this year, we talk about reviewing our strategic community plan. So my first question is, when did that strategic community plan actually come into effect? When do we start actually operating on those new themes?
Go to the director.
Yeah, sorry, through the chair. I think it was from 1 July. I just have to go back and confirm that, but it has been adopted by council and is from 21 through to
20 or 2031. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. So I'm just looking at this page here, And I'm seeing that we're reporting achievements under our new themes, the current strategic plan, the 2021 to 31. This annual report is for the year 2021. So why are we reporting our achievements on our new themes when we should be reporting against the old themes under which this annual report is reporting on?
Yeah, through the chair. Yeah, valid point. I'll take that up with the comms team, and they can restructure that as part of the draft.
Thank you. And a follow-up on that, just for, I suppose, transparency, I don't know which word, transparency, accountability, I don't know which one it is. Would it be, can I make a suggestion that perhaps we could have it mapped out from our old one, our old 5 themes, and mapped across to the new themes, perhaps, so that for residents, for ratepayers, for me, for us, so we can see how we transition to a new strategic plan through the annual report, just as an extra bit of information, perhaps, or a bit more clarity? Suggestion perhaps can be taken by the city?
Yeah, thank you. Through the chair, yeah, take that on board, and we'll see what we can structure in that spot.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I have a question on this item, just in regards to the attachment on page 130 of the agenda, which is the attendance and disclosures. I know that it's a draft report and it's a draft attachment. Can I just ask, have these numbers been checked, or are these just draft numbers?
Through the chair, I believe these numbers have been checked and verified.
Could I please ask that they get checked again? Particularly, I'm listed as not attending any Perth Airport Municipality Group meetings for the entire year, and I believe that to be incorrect. I would also check the EMRC meeting attendance, as I was the deputy and Councillor Clark missed 2 meetings, but it shows that I only attended 1. So I would like to check if that's in fact correct.
Absolutely, we'll bring back the revised figures to you next week.
Thank you. Councillor Ostrzowski?
And just a question on that point there, in terms of the EMRC, is the city getting its information from the EMRC's annual reports for that?
I would have to take that one on notice. I'm not sure where those numbers, whether they've come from our own records or whether they've come directly from the EMRC. I'll advise you next week, before next week.
And one more question then, if that is a mistake on the EMRC's behalf, how do we get then the EMRC to fix that error?
Go to the Director.
Again, through the chair, I'll check where the error has come from, and I'll bring you back the response and how we amend it.
Any other questions? No? Okay. The next one is item 10.4.6, Australia Day Awards, Citizen of the Year and Outstanding Women in Leadership. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. At the the Reconciliation Advisory Committee meetings, a proposal was made to invite members of that committee to nominate Aboriginal people for categories in this award. I'm just wondering, I know there's been some change in personnel during that time. I believe it was the June meeting, and I'm just wondering if that indeed did happen. If the members were invited to seek nominations.
Okay, as it's a question about the process, I'll go to the Director.
Through the chair, I'll take that on notice and get back to councillors for next week.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have questions on this item?
Just on the attendance and disclosures, I don't know how they calculate these.
Sorry, Councillor Palmer, is this on the previous
Yes, the
item?
attendance and disclosures, 8.5. That's what I've got here.
Sorry, are you going
Page
back to the annual
130.
report item?
130, page 130.
Okay, so we've moved on to another item. So I'll just ask if anyone else has got questions on item 10.4.6. If not, I'll go back to that item.
Thank you.
Which is 10.2.5, the annual report. Councillor Palmer.
Lovely. And this is 8.5, page 130. Just looking, you might be able to advise me on the Skate Park Advisory Committee. It's got here just a number of meetings, 1. How do they calculate that out?
I'll go to the Director.
So again, I'll review all of this and provide an updated response before next week's meeting. Obviously, clearly we need to check the numbers here.
Thank you, because in my knowledge, I attended all the meetings. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councillor Peterson-Pick.
Yeah, sorry, just on the attendance table, I actually just now, I thought it would be accurate, so I didn't check it, but maybe it's worth looking at all of it. The Heritage Advisory Committee, I'm not sure if it's accurate as well, just to note, but maybe it's worth having a check. Thank you very much.
I think the direction is to check the entire table.
Everything, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'll move to item 10.5.1, petition Leek Street cul-de-sac. Councillor Johnson.
Sorry, I just need to declare an impartiality interest, if I may. Sorry, Councillor, for jumping in. I just wanted to quickly, I was a member of one of the committees that was put together for the city-wide traffic study. It's impartial. Stay in the room.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. Mayor, I need to declare an impartiality interest on this. No, I don't. It's not it's a thingy, proximity interest, sorry, so I'm going to have to leave because I live within the area that's indicated on the map.
I'll just seek advice from the CEO.
Has anyone got any questions on it?
So that's okay. So you'll be leaving the room? Yeah. Okay. I'll just see, before you leave the room, I'll just ask if anyone has questions. If there's no question, you do. Sorry, Councillor Johnson, you will have to leave the room. Councillor Bull.
Thank you. I've got a few questions. Firstly, I'm just wondering what the plan and the process is for the Embleton precinct discussed in the report.
I'll go to the director.
Through the chair, I suppose we haven't looked at what our final plan or process is going to be for that, but I imagine it'll be fairly similar given the timeframes that we have. I suppose, depending on what council resolves next Tuesday, our intention is to meet with Main Roads and just firm up what their timeframes are. I'm concerned with the timeframes that they're proposing. If they're saying that they're telling us that we've got $1.2 million in late November and they want us to spend it by 30th of June, it's a pretty hard task in today's market with the way contractors are and consultants and getting all of those resources in line. So I think we're going to have to review that following that meeting with Main Roads.
Okay. Thank you. My next question is whether it would be possible to undertake consultation prior to putting the plan together in order to receive some initial feedback from concerned residents or interested residents.
I'll go to the director.
Yes, once again, through the chair. Once again, that depends on that initial meeting with Main Roads, but I had a meeting with our community engagement advisor today, and we probably landed on something that's fairly similar to what you're suggesting, is in that, depending on what council resolves next Tuesday, if it goes as per officer recommendation, for example, and we have that meeting with Main Roads, my intention would be to write to everyone in that precinct, advising of that council resolution and asking them to put forward any comments or areas of concern they may have so they can be considered in the development of that plan.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to double check. The city's understanding is that the plan would need to be delivered, actually built by the end of this financial year?
Through the chair, that's our understanding at this stage, but we've had limited documentation around this at this stage. So that's why once I can confirm that council is committed to or happy to look at continuing on with these projects, then I intend to meet with Main Roads as quickly as possible, hopefully Wednesday or Thursday next week after the council meeting on Tuesday.
Yep, okay, thank you. And then in terms of consultation, is there any ability to run some kind of workshop as opposed to just writing to residents?
Through the chair, once again, what my initial proposals were at this stage was to send out that initial letter, then get up a draft plan and then have drop-in sessions where people can come along and look at the plans.
Yep, okay, thank you. This relates to some quickly rolled out measures, low-cost measures. The traffic modelling relating to MetroNet indicates that there's going to be pretty much and I'd be happy for someone to correct me if I'm wrong, but pretty much a breakdown in the way in which that the traffic moves by 2026. Does the city know, or has the city commenced any discussions with Main Roads around doing some more regional traffic modelling to better understand how this is going to be managed across not just the Bayswater area, but across Morley and Maylands and the wider region?
Through the chair, not as such. I suppose the focus at this stage has been to look at the impacts that will result on the immediate local road network associated with any congestion issues that will happen through that town centre with the change of Watley Crescent, Beachborough Road North, etc. But that is something that we need to take up with Main Roads in conjunction with all of the projects they're doing, or all the state projects that are happening in terms of Metronet, to look at what those overall impacts are. Because I don't think they're looking at that in a comprehensive manner or a collective manner, rather than individual projects.
Okay, thank you. And on the back of that, it's a question to you, Mayor. Would there be the ability to include that kind of work as part of the advocacy that I presume you'll be undertaking with the state government as part of your role?
I'll go to the CEO.
Yeah, through the chair, I don't see any reason why it can't be. I guess it's a matter of understanding where we need to go with some of this work to, I guess, get the community's position on it so that we're not at odds with some of this stuff. It's going to be a hard ask, but certainly we can push it with state government if that's the direction for council.
Yeah, so just to clarify, this is about a regional look now to understand how to deal with an issue that has been flagged for 2026. So the advocacy that I'm asking for would be more around that larger regional longer term view. Would that be possible to be included in the advocacy?
Through the chair, yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you. That's it, thanks.
Any other questions, councillors? No? Okay, I'll just ask Councillor Johnson to come back to the room. The next item is 10.5.2, proposed extended closure of Dunstan Road, Bayswater. Councillor Johnson. Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, proximity interest. The Tonkin Gap project is, I can see it from my backyard. It's a proximity interest, and I'll leave the room.
No problem.
Thank you.
Councillor Johnson. Oh, excuse me, Councillor Peake. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. I just want to check, please, in the recommendation, it doesn't have any dates, and I'm just wondering why not?
I'll go to the director.
Sorry, the recommendation talks about extending the closure from 17th of December to 1st of March 2022 in number one of the officer's recommendation.
Sorry, my apologies. Okay, so my apologies, thank you. Also just want to know what the process is, please, through the chair, about how we advertise that and who bears the cost of the re-advertising or second round of advertising?
I'll go to the director.
Yeah, through the chair, as of this year, we included charges in our fees and charges for proponents of closures, so they will be meeting, they'll be paying that fee. We'll be undertaking the work, but they'll be paying the fees that are applicable.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions on that item? No? If we could call Councillor Ball back into the room. So that's all the items that people have indicated. I'll just go around the room and see if there are any other items councillors have questions on. Councillor Ball.
10.3.1.
Electric vehicle charging stations.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'll just ask, does anyone have an interest to disclose? No.
Thanks.
Go ahead.
So, thank you. The officer's recommendation, Lim 2, says that the emission reduction and renewable energy plan include a specific action to develop a plan for EV charging infrastructure. My question is, when is that scheduled to occur under the ERRE?
I'll go to the director. Or the manager.
Through the chair, so there's action M14 in the emission reduction renewable energy plan. It's a medium-term action, and so they're scoped in a 2 to 4 year timeframe. It hasn't specifically been scheduled as yet.
Okay. Thank you. And I just have a second question, if that's okay. If it were to happen now, what would be bumped?
Through the chair, that's something that we would need to take on notice. At the moment, our primary focus is on implementing the structure in the Erie and integrating it into all other aspects of the city planning processes. So that's something we would need to take on notice.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, just a quick question in relation to financial implications with that one. Was that the price quoted there, 5,000? Is that per bay, or what was the 5,000?
From memory, I think the price of $5,000 there is for advertising for an expression of interest process.
Okay, that's okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? No? Councillors, are there any other items that you'd like to ask questions on? No. Okay, we'll go back to that one. So, okay. Could I get someone to close the door, please? I'll close this meeting at 8:50. Thank you.